Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we have three things three parts of the agenda for this evening. We're doing like a quick, we will highlight something at the beginning of the meeting, even before we start our meeting, and then we will have the public hearing for the rezoning for a commercial land to a residential, and then we'll have the regular meeting where we'll have like the three readings for part of this rezoning. First, for this evening, I would like to mention Mr. Fire Chief Donald Cormier. So good evening, Mr. It's a pleasure this evening to mention highlight a special occasion and quite a success. This year's marks your 40 years of service for the Shediac Fire Department, and the 16 last years as a chief. Since my arrival to the municipal council, I had the opportunity to know more, especially with the project of expansion of the fire station, and I know this project is dear to your heart. Chief Donald, you are the 20th fire chief for the town of Shediac, and during a critical period, you are managing like your fire station with brio, and while keeping in mind like the wellness of our residents during all those years at the service of your community. We are recognizing you this evening through a plaque and a second series of bars to add to the uniform you wear so well. On behalf of the council and all the citizens, congratulations.
J'ai vu ça avec les enfants, je sais qu'on fait une photo folle, mais ils font des yeah. Yeah. C'est comme les mariages.
Ouais, quasiment. On note la participation de.
So we're mentioning the participation of a good part of the fire station. Thank you for being here for your chief. Keep up the good work as you are already doing. Just at the moment's notice. So we are recommending this to you. Second part, as I said, the public hearing. To consider, like for the Z-4458Z and the P3436 10P, I would need a motion to open the meeting, or to open like the public hearing. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Emile O'Brien. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay, motion carried. Thank you.
Nos pépins techniques vont continuer là.
So technical problems are still continuing. So this evening for this part, first we have a presentation from Plan 360. We'll also have like a presentation from the applicant and the public, and questions from the members of the council to conclude like this public hearing. And then we'll start our regular meeting for for the next steps.
There we go.
Bonsoir, membres du conseil.
Good evening, council members. Good evening, Mr. Robichaud. As you summarized really good, this is a public hearing for rezoning to zone R1 and a public hearing for the modification of the land use map. I will only present the detail of the process briefly, and then I'll present a recommendation. It should be quite a short public hearing. It's quite simple. As mentioned, there were another rezoning request on November 18. It was for a group home, like we see it's circled in red. It's for zone, like integrated zone. It's not what we're talking about today. So the conversation will be limited to this property or the three properties here that the request is to go from general commercial to R1, which is residential low density. Just to summarize the process, it started on November 15, and as of now, we got a public presentation for the change municipal plan, a public hearing for the other rezoning requests, and also a recommendation from the PRAC committee. After this evening's meeting, the council did all these legal obligations before they can proceed with the reading of those three bylaws. If the council wish to do so, they can do like the two other readings. The first one's already done. To talk about the project, we are on Riverside Drive. And we see like the three properties circled in red, and there are three properties technically in one of the property. It's a parcel of land attached to another one. Those properties are vacant, mainly wooden area. I think one has a tennis court on it. And we see like the Webster House at the north, and right beside these are single family dwellings. These are a few properties. So the properties are facing more mostly on Webster Street. It's just to show like what the property looks like, and there is an access, and the rest of property has a row of trees that are hiding the property from the street. The existing rezoning is general commercial, and before we proceed to a zoning, we have to modify like the municipal plan. That's why there's another bylaw, and to modify like the land use map, there's also a request like to change like the future land use map from commercial to residential. So the request is the two bylaws that we see here to zone for zone R1, and also to change like the land use map. It's just like a general commercial was there because in 2023 the council adopted the council to allow like an event center, a restaurant, and a hotel, motel, and a bed and breakfast was allowed for main use. But prior to this request, like this zone that was already R1. So the request I'm presenting is to go back to what we had for zoning. And just to tell you, like R1 is mostly like a single family dwelling. It can have like 2 units, 1 unit plus an in-law suite. So that's really limited to the property. And also you can have a bed and breakfast, subject to some conditions. So the principles will mention is mainly single family dwelling. So they built all the buildings are mainly single family dwelling, but because of the proximity of the Shediac Center, and so we can consider like a higher density than what we would be seeing now. And to summarize, I think I already said the two properties were already zoned R1 before the modification from the council in 2023. So in a nutshell, it's just to bring those three properties to the zoning it was before the zoning of 2023. And we see like in the neighborhood, it's the same zoning at south and west. And then at the east, it's zone R3. And the recommendation of the PRAC committee for Southeast to recommend the council to adopt the two bylaws Z-14-4458Z and P14 3610P.
Puis pour la raison qu'ils recommandent.
For the reason they recommend to adopt those two bylaws, that it's simply like we're just bringing the zoning of what it was before. This would conclude my presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Robichaud.
Donc,
So, as you said, like it's a reasoning request, but a little bit less complex because it brought back to what the allowed use before. So, any council members who would have council specific questions on this part?
on procédera.
If not, we will proceed. Thank you very much.
On permettrait également aux requérants.
Now we would ask the applicant like to do a quick presentation if they wish to do so.
Je les ai vus ce soir.
I think I saw them this evening.
Cette partie ici était
So this part was
moindre complexe.
less complex compared to the other one. From the public
On n'avait pas reçu
on this, we did not receive no objections or anything in writing,
même au public de
but would still allow the public like to express themselves if they wish to do so. Anyone in the room would like to speak? Yes.
d'identifier.
Could you add my name? It's Carl Girard. I'm the owner on Riverside Drive, 150. It's not good news for us. Will be rezoned because
Pour le rezonage de commerce.
it's rezoned from commercial to residential.
Le sujet de
It's only like the subject of the public hearing. Perfect.
Monsieur le maire.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Good
Monsieur
evening,
Pierre Gautreau.
Bonjour.
Mr. Pierre Gautreau. Good evening, Mr. Gautreau.
Avec le-
I agree, like with this residential, we're very happy with this,
Je suis
but
curieux de-
I'm just curious, like the order of things, because
On veut le transférer à résidentiel.
we want to transfer it to a residential because
Demande.
there is another request,
Implique plus ou moins que-
and this involves more or less like that the council
Probablement.
would probably approve,
Ou pas.
Oui.
because if they do not
Le
approve,
conseil aura deux décisions.
the council will have two decisions to take. Like,
L'ordre des choses.
I'm just wondering for the order of things, like if I were the applicant,
Ça passait pas au conseil.
did not go through with the council, I would.
C'était commercial, parce que
It should probably remain commercial because it's easier to say, to sell if it's all commercial than if it's a mixture of things. I'm wondering if which order the council will look at the proposal.
Durant
So during
qui va suivre,
the regular meeting that will follow the public hearing, the public hearing,
Monsieur Girard,
Mr. Girard, you said,
l'audience publique pour
the public hearing for
les terrains dont la maison web
the land, the land where the land of where the Webster House is located, it was done the previous meeting. This one is only for vacant lots, like they're mostly wooden lots, like just to put them back from commercial to residential.
Il y aura une proposition, la troisième.
There would be one proposal, the third reading for the two ones to the meeting, regular meeting that will follow. So the council can vote either for the two of them, reject the two, or vote maybe yes for one, or reject the other one, as the wish of the council.
Ma question est, est-ce que dans quel ordre?
So my question, in which order you consider, is it like,
Ça va être 57Z qui
it will be 57Z
de commercial à aménagement.
from commercial to integrated first,
sera pour
and then it will be for
le 10P.
the plan 10P.
Implique les
That involves like the lots that's being proposed to go back to residential, and the rezoning for residential, because we're changing the land use. Like we need to make two motions.
Premièrement, ça va être
First, it will be like
maison Webster
the land where the Webster House is located, and then it will be like the surrounded vacant lots. Thank you.
Donc, pas d'autres.
So,
Question de la part des membres du conseil.
questions from the members of council. So I don't know if any questions on this one for
Soit M. Robichaud, soit l'administration.
either for Mr. Robichaud or the administration.
Voyons rien, je crois que
Seeing none, I
au
think
courant de cette situation.
I think we're aware of this situation. I think it's been a few meetings. I will ask to close the public hearing, moved by Councillor Joël Desbris, seconded by Councillor Roland Cormier.
Tous en faveur en diront
All in favor, saying aye. Against, nay.
adopté.
It's been carried. Thank you.
Donc, c'est la fin de l'audience.
Now,
publique.
this concludes the public hearing.
Donc,
So,
parfait. Donc, pour notre réunion ordinaire.
for our regular meeting,
je veux simplement constater que
I certainly want to see like we are meeting, gathering on the traditional Occident territory of the Mi'kmaq people, where their ancestors signed a peace and friendship treaty with the British come the 1700. We do have quorum for this
Est-ce qu'il y a
evening.
des membres du conseil qui désirent
Any
déclarer-
council members who would like to declare a conflict of interest on the items on this evening's agenda?
Merci.
Seeing none,
Adoption de l'ordre du jour.
adoption of the agenda. So you have the agenda in front of you. So we need a motion to adopt the agenda as present, moved by Councillor Paul Boudreau, seconded by Emile O'Brien. Questions on the motion?
Sinon, tous en faveur en diront
If not, all in favor, saying aye. Against, nay.
adopté.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Numéro 5.
Number 5.1, minutes from the special meeting of October 15, 2024. So you had the opportunity to take a look of, I need a motion to adopt like the minutes. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Joël Desbris. Questions on this on these minutes?
Sinon, tous en faveur en diront
If not, all in favor, saying aye. Against, nay.
adopté.
Carried.
Et puis, Janice et de Joël.
Yeah,
Et
moved by Janice, seconded by Joël. 5.2, like minutes from the regular meeting of October 22nd, I would need a motion to adopt like the minutes. Moved by Councillor Joël Desbris, seconded by Councillor Germaine Gallant. Questions on the motion on these minutes?
Conseiller Patricia Bourg-Chevalier.
Councillor Patricia Bourg-Chevalier. Mr. Mayor, maybe it's not a question. There might be a word or two missing.
Moi, j'étais à la section 8.3.
Was it the section 8.3, like building permits, a report like for 2023? It's bracket 2023. Like the name of the month was not. It should be 2024. So
Ben, ça serait celui-là du mois de
it
septembre.
could be the one maybe for September.
Ben, ça serait le rapport de septembre.
So it would be the September report because October wasn't finished yet.
Oui, c'est celui-là.
Octobre.
Ouais. Merci pour.
Thank
Merci
you.
de signaler.
Thank you for mentioning this to us.
Donc, avec la correction, tous en faveur.
All in favor, saying aye.
Contre, non.
Against, nay. It's been carried.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very
Numéro
much.
6,
Six,
publique. Nous n'avons
public
pas
presentation,
reçu
we
ce
have
soir
none
de correspondance,
and no
mais
correspondence, but for standing and special committee reports, we have like the fire department. This is the monthly report, the one for November 2024. Thank you very much, Mr. Fire Chief. And we can see like the numbers and all that. So if you have any question, would be the time to ask them. If not, 8.2, like the building permits report. So you have in front of you like the building permit report as of the end of November, where we are reaching a grand total of over like 91 millions and a half with 237 building permits. Still December left. It's not a month that is super busy, but so we could expect maybe like those numbers for 2024. If there are any questions. Thank you. As you see, like in the columns, the second best year, like the town experience. So still good, a lot of good things going around. 8.3, like a mayor's report. So I have a couple of things, just a couple of little items. I could not present a report from the Regional Service Commission because we're meeting tomorrow evening. We'll have an update from the Economic economist Richard Saya, and he sent some numbers like for housing needs. So with the recent decision of the federal government to reduce the international immigration, so it was able to take a look at it and make some adjustment to its numbers. So we should receive this tomorrow evening, and also the report from the different sectors and mandates, and also transfer to reserve fund as we will do this evening here. But for social media, last week, because of information brought to our attention, the administration recommended to delay the bylaw of the animal control. So the council will have the opportunity to give their opinion in 2025. It will be early enough in the new year in order to follow the requirements of the province and to expand the scope of the bylaw to the new territory following the municipal reform. It's something we have to do. But in the subject, I would like to address a question in the comments the municipality received on this social media page on the proposed bylaw. As we appreciate the comments, or some comments were using a disgracious language. I understand people can have an opinion and they want to express their opinion on municipality's decision, but that we require respect from all during our council meetings. We require the same respect on our social media. If people want to write their comments on social media of the municipality, we ask them to do it respectfully. If not, those comments will be removed. Thank you. In terms of council from council member, I saw the council Boudreau had a report on the multi-surface port, because an unfinished business could have been there. We mandated the committee to have the panel for the multi sport surface. So thank you, Germaine, for your help. Very productive meeting, and I will bring a motion to the council in January to find a solution. I met also the director on what the committee decided, and it seems very interesting. So that's what I want to tell you. In January, I will have a motion. So that's it. That's all. Any other council member would like to report on their respective committee? If not, sometime December it's not very active. Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I could do a quick report from the vestiaire. I will do it in English because our reports are all in English.
Co-op Shediac from the John Lyons Foundation awarded $40,000 in-store credit for the Christmas boxes. At the Christmas parade, Shediac collected 280 pounds of food and $85 in money. Tim Hortons holiday cookie smiley face with Capelli and Shediac raised $5,469.75, and some members of the board of the vestiaire went to do those little smiley faces. The wine festival that happened in Moncton raised $1,701.12 in water sales, and the red carpet team worked hard and brought in $5,800. And some members of our councillors and the workers from the vestiaire were on the red carpet team. The women team knitting group at the Saint Joseph donated 26 bins of hats, mitts, scarves, and blankets, and they received the donations of $1,000 from the John Lyons Club. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Bertin. Quelqu'un qui était occupé.
Thank you, Councillor Bertin. Somebody were busy the crocheting. So, next item 9, report from the CEO. Mr. Léger, I don't know if you had a couple of items. I have a report, Mr. Mayor. You stole one of my items, of course, for animal controls. Well, following the comments we received, we'll do a little bit more work before we feel comfortable, so that the bylaw is is what we should have and what the residents are looking for. We will be working after the work on this file, and we'll present something early in the new year for this file. So on this file, so I remember the service for within for former boundaries of the town of Shediac, the bylaw is there, but in the former LSDs, the coverage by NBC SPCA ends at the end of January.
January 31st, the service is stopping, and we would generally be taking up that service, but without the bylaw that would be adopted, there might be a delay where there might be a period of time where there's no coverage. In terms of last summer, we talked about some public consultation sessions in terms of bylaws in the former LSDs. We're working on that file right now. I know in New Year, we'll be presenting some dates, 3 dates actually, for some public consultations as requested by the council. This will also lead to a survey and perhaps a public awareness campaign on our bylaws. And we'll be doing this for the residents to see what type of bylaws they'd like to be seeing, what is the mandate and what is the municipality. So we'll come back early next year with some preliminary dates. Right now, we're working with some potential facilitators who would help us to moderate those public sessions. So we're looking at late January, early February for those consultations. But once we've nailed down those dates, we'll share them with you. It's not only the end of the year, we're preparing for the new year. We're working right now on the projects for the new year. And we're trying to align things up so that once we're up to the 1st of January, we hit the ground running, as you might say. There's lots of files that we have to close out for the end of the year. It's the year end, but we're also working
to get a head start for 2025.
We're also working to get a head start for 2025. And thus concludes my report, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. CAO. So, next, recommendations of the Regional Service Commission. We don't have any for the night. Nothing on unfinished business or under new business. But there is a request for information from the members of the council. I don't know. There may be something. There may be some things where you'd like to ask some questions. Obviously, it's be things we haven't covered yet. Councillor Paul Boudreau. I have a few questions, many questions. I saw this on the news. I'm not sure who to address this to. An energy project in Scotiabank that was launched on the news. Do you have any details? What does it involve? I can give you the basics. It comes from a press release. Energy NB Power will basically be the buyer of electricity of a natural gas plant that would be built by a private company. They went to tender for that, so that a company would create an electrical plant, a natural gas plant. It will be based, as I understand it, within the Shediac Industrial Park, due to the proximity of the natural gas line that flows through there. If the line was elsewhere, it would not be in the Shediac Industrial Park, rather. So far, they're expecting to be producing electricity as of 2028, as I recall. There'd be a whole series of steps before that. It is a private company that would be building it, not NB Power. NB Power would be buying the power. It's like all of the wind turbines in New Brunswick. These are private, and they sell to NB Power. That's a good news. Thank you. The Anglophone school, the English-speaking school. Have there been made any announcements yet? No, none yet. But the purchase of land, as I understand, was being finalized. So that would be, it's up to the province to officially announce it when it would be completed. Do we have any details and or any good news? Could we get a report from our MLA in terms of the renovation of Luigi Robichaud School? People are asking what they're doing. I know they did one of the phases, so I don't need the answer today, but could we get maybe get a few more details? The only thing that we've known is that was what was in the news. Midlife renovations to Louis Jouy LGR School, they were stopped and they will be now completed within the next year. Exactly what part they hadn't quite done yet, I would leave that to the province and the school district to inform us about that. The next step for the intergenerational center. What's the next step? There's a presentation from the consultant, and mentioned that there's some good responses from citizens. There's quite a few steps. 5, 6, 7, 8. Financial capacity, for example. Those are the next upcoming things. For right now, we're seeking potential consultants. We set it out pretty wide. We identified 7 or 8 who did that type of work in the sector. They're all from an accounting firm to an engineering firm to a traditional philanthropic firm. We've sent proposals, and we're waiting in the new year to receive service offerings. We will evaluate them, and we hope to present them in January, so that someone can start to work. That's very interesting. Thank you. During the budget, we set aside financing for the sidewalks. We were told that there'd be a study coming for active transportation that would include sidewalks and trails. And when can we expect that report? And a few questions. Will there be a public consultation for that report? And how will the council be involved in all that, in that file? I can't speak to the public consultation session, but I know that we received a preliminary version of the report last week. We did make some comments, obviously. We're waiting on a final version. That version usually would be presented to the council for their study and to be confirmed and validated by the council, either by motion or... In terms of next steps, I'm not aware. I'm not sure that will be about these public consultations. Within, I see Bob. It's not just a report that was prepared by consultants. There are public consultations that took place for that report to be made. Thank you. I know that there's a request for a crosswalk on Bro Bridge. Very pleased that it was transferred to Public Works to be studied. The radar data, who has that information? Can we get some type of report? What does it interpret? Do you really see the speed on the street? Is there speeding? I know that we can't, the radar panels right there, right? You mean, can we get data? That's the property of the municipality. I would think that we can collect data, but even before last year, in 2023, I do believe that we had made a study for Chesley and in the entirety of Bro Bridge, and it was saying the places, telling us about the places where people were speeding, by how much, and all of those results were indicating that the place in question was not the problem area. It was further on in the Bro Bridge behind LGR Street School. There's basically nothing there. There's no construction. There's no habitation. The other part was on the Chesley Street between the roundabout and Webster. That's where people were going, had the greatest going the most over the speed limit. It was basically, the other areas, people were basically following the standards around speed. So I would like a professional evaluation of it. Well, in 2023, you've already received it. If I can share it again, no problem. Well, that was daily data that they compiled every month, like 6 months, in terms of how we can produce with the radar panels that are there that indicate the speed. Maybe it's something that, Bob, can you collect that data? I would think you can, so that we can have a bit of an accounting of it. Hello, good evening to you all. Yes, the information contained within that, the radar panels, there contains a log of that information, and we do check it periodically. We download it periodically, and we analyze information. We can see if there's a way of bringing that information to council for your to be presentation, just to see the overall situation. There was something that burned on the west of part of Main Street. When will they bring it down? Is it an insurance question? It doesn't look very good. Usually there's arrangements or provisions. What we were told for that property, it's a question of insurance between the owner and the insurer. The owner asked us, if I'm not wrong, if not mistaken, Mr. Clerk, he asked us to have a letter to help to speed up the procedures insurance-wise. We haven't declared the as an unsightly premises, but it is starting to become a place of concern. It's not great to look at. So we did provide that letter to the owner. For right now, the meaning for the reasons for cleaning, it's between the insurer and the owner. That's all. Thank you for your patience and thank you for the answers. It's our pleasure. Councillor Patricia Bourque-Chevalier, thank you, Your Worship. It was the same thing as for Councillor Boudreau related to the crosswalk on Bro Bridge. It's not necessarily the speed for the young people taking the bus. It's the rate of traffic as one car after another. It's hard. Can we control the number of vehicles passing? Radar must provide that information as well. In terms of the volume, I think that's mostly it. The young people, when there's 4 or 5 cars, all of a sudden there's a little break, but then there's another one. Maybe it can do an accounting of how many cars passed from 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10, different times in the day, or 8 o'clock to whenever those hours that the young people are showing up. And when the council did look at that, well, that was in 2023 again. We looked at when Bro Bridge went out towards the roundabout. We looked at 4-way stops. They become 2-way stops. We're looking at maybe taking up certain measures. One of them was a crosswalk in part where pedestrians could cross, but then we would need to set aside a spot on the south side and basically like a sidewalk. It's not standard to cross from a sidewalk to a private lawn. We had done a bit of a sketch, a draft, and we had an idea of how much it could cost. For at least part of the work is already done. If you see all the young people who cross where there was the 4-way, it's all the young people who cross there, and they have a hard time getting there. Well, as I said, Public Works can look at that and tell us, arrive at a sense of what we can do. They'll have some data to support whatever action that would be proposed. Great. Just to add, it's not speed, it's the number of cars. Thank you. Great. You're welcome.
Voyons pas d'autres questions.
I see no more questions.
Présentation et lecture des arrêtés.
Presentations and reading of
Nous avons
bylaws.
le premier arrêté.
So the first bylaw, it's Z-14-44-57Z. It's a third reading.
Non, ça fait une mise à jour sur mon écran.
So I see an update on my screen. So, for that debate, somebody would need to move the third reading. Madam Deputy Mayor, thank you, Your Worship. Sorry. Z-14-44-57Z, third reading. That a bylaw Z-14-44-57Z, a bylaw amending the town of Shediac's zoning bylaw, be read a third time by title and in its entirety. I so move. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland.
J'aurais dû faire habituellement, je vous permets toujours au staff de faire un petit peu de background.
I always allow a bit of a background to the clerk so that it's clear to everyone. Is it you or I can do it? I can provide a summary, a quick summary. It comes back to the public hearing that's already taken place, 57Z. This is the bylaw, zoning bylaw that transforms to PID, the Webster House, from general commercial to integrated development. To accommodate a group home and related uses. This was the project that was presented once, a second time, more recently. So, yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And that's the topic. It's the most difficult topic for the night. I have proposed a motion for third reading. It was moved and seconded. Are there any questions on that motion? Madam Deputy Mayor, question. Comment. A comment, if you'll allow. For that zoning bylaw, I will support it. With all of the discussions that we had so far, people are worried that it will lead to situations and problems. I don't feel that's the case. My sense of it is that I feel like the developers are already within the municipality. We haven't heard anything like that since they've been in Shediac. So you hardly even notice they're there. They're in the backyard. There are in the backyard of people that we know, and those people don't seem to be worried. We saw. Sorry. During the public hearing just now, there's lots of wooded area all around. And at some point, you have to look at the big picture. And we know that there are people who live in the same sort of backyard, and they are fully in agreement that business, that group, that they would develop that property, that they would. There's lots of arguments whereby it's a tax question, or who are these? Can they afford it? This isn't related to the zoning bylaw. The issue at hand is to change the zoning to integrated development. So I support it. Question, Councillor Patricia Brook-Cheverry. May I ask a question? For his expertise? Yes, sir, for sure. During public hearing, I asked a question in 2 or 3 different ways, but it comes back to the same question, and I'm not sure if I got the right answer or not. So I had a bit of a chat with Phil for the meeting, so it might be something we can share with the other council members. I asked the question, if ever the zoning were to be granted and that the Naomi House is there, and we do our municipal plan, and we provide a definition for group home to see if it would apply if it were to be sold and somebody else would buy it, if we clarify group home during our municipal plan, if that would apply to the new owners. Did I explain it properly? Yes, that's it. If group home is defined in such a way right now, it would be allowed in terms of the bylaw. Later, if the municipal plan and the zoning bylaw would change and the definition of the group home would change as well, should it meet the new definition of group home? Yes, is that it? The answer would be yes. It would be under the new definition of group home. So the definition of group home as it exists before the new plan only applies to Naomi and according to existing zoning bylaw until there's a new bylaw or a new municipal plan. If the definition were to change. The definition, I don't find the definition very clear, but if we are going to clarify it in the municipal plan for the next one, I would be in agreement with supporting it. There's a we could clarify it. Thank you. It's a good question. Thank you for confirming that. Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, you have a question. More of a comment, Your Worship. Thank you. It's basically the same type of idea. I find that it's a piece of land that has a lot of potential, the businesses that could be there, that would bring more value to the community. It's a historic house. And is it the right thing to be done? I don't know. But the municipal plan should. It's a business. Councillor Sylvie mentioned they don't need to pay taxes because they won't have any to pay. It's a business that doesn't pay taxes on the building. I don't find it fair for the people living around it that we made a budget lately. We weren't able to bring taxes down by much. If people say it's $26,000 in taxes that the community will no longer receive, those are my comments. That's why I can't support this tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Claude. Thank you, Councillor Bertin. Thank you, Councillor Mille Bryan. Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, there is about 74 residents near Webster Place that put a name of petition. Lots of emails have been sent to the members of the staff and the council, and they were against it. It's important to take into account the opinions of the people who live around this Webster property. I'm also of the opinion that this type of business should be treated like any other business, and without a business plan, it's hard to make decisions based on ideas that are really based on our emotions. We're speaking of the original property of Bill Webster. It's an iconic property that exists here in Shediac since World War II, a property that is part of the history of the town of Shediac. It's really sad to see a property with so much history being transformed into a halfway house. Here's my question, Your Worship. It remains the same. If the zoning is changed and the project doesn't work, because the council changed the zoning on that property not so long ago for a project that didn't work. We don't really need to see far back for any red flags. If you go in the Naomi Ruth website, current needs website, under that section, they mention their current needs. That means that they need today. They mention renovations to the tune of $30,000. They mention current needs for food, $2,500 a month. They also mention monthly fuel costs of $1,500 a month. They need 20 office spaces for a total of $10,000. And then they want to renovate 2 old apartments. I don't understand. Where is that money coming from? If they can't manage what they currently have on Calder Street, how will they manage to manage Webster House? The heating, the lighting is going to be 3 or 4 more times more. I just can't believe that the donations from churches will be sustainable for the years to come. I've never done business like that, but I can't imagine, I can't see how it's going to work well.
So, just to
close out, another things, other items needed. Under currents need, the items needed, basic grocery items. I won't name them all. Bread, milk, eggs. And once again, if they can't afford to run it as it is right now, how will they afford it on that property? Those are my 2 cents, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Jean Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Jean-Claude. I'm not ready to support the motion. It's quite simple. This group home notion, it's too wide. It's not clear. It's just the scope is too wide, and I'm not ready to accept a bylaw on a group home when we haven't done more research. I understand that they're already there and they're grandfathered, but I think that we're opening the door here to something that the town in some number of years might well regret having opened the door to. As regards a group home, it could become a great many other things. A halfway house. It could become lots of other things, other different things. That's why I'm against the bylaw, a motion for the bylaw in terms of the group home in the bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Cormier. Okay, so. With that, I'll ask for a vote with raised hands. I see there are people of for and against. It will allow us to count the votes more easily. So for all those in favor of the rezoning, please raise your hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those against? 3. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, you can read it in its entirety. I hope I won't. It's having a bit of a problem in the bylaw Z-44-44-58Z, a bylaw modifying the zoning bylaw for the town of Shediac by virtue of the powers conferred by the law of city planning. The Z-14 in County of Westmoreland under number 3360, is hereby amended as follows. Schedule A entitled Town of Shediac Zoning Map, whenever it is mentioned in the text of the zoning bylaw, is amended by the map here to attach as Schedule A 57. Motion, whereas the Town of Shediac has accepted the Manicambo General to rezone 57 16 4564 in the town of Shediac under to integrated development zone ID in order to allow group home and its incidental uses. Be it resolved that the following conditions apply to bylaw Z-14-44-57Z. 1. Notwithstanding all other provisions to the contrary, the lands, buildings, and structures on the above mentioned property are subject to the following terms and conditions. That the properties to be rezoned are outlined in the Schedule A57 of this bylaw, that the permitted main uses of this land, buildings, or structures as defined in zoning bylaw Z-14-44 shall be limited to a group home, a single unit dwelling, a restaurant, a hotel or motel, a cultural center and or entertainment facility, a museum or amusement place, and a bed and breakfast. That one or several buildings, structures, or accessory uses related to the main use of the land, building, or structure shall be permitted. D. that subject to section 14.2, 14.4, 14.6, and 14.7 of the zoning bylaw Z-14-44 related to general provisions of general commercial zone applies mutatis mutandis. The height of a main building or structure shall not exceed 11 meters. That subject to section 53 of the zoning bylaw Z-14-44 related to heritage sites. The main building, Webster House, 114 Riverside Drive, is considered a historic site and subject to specific provisions. Notwithstanding the provision of this bylaw, any application for a construction and/or development permit for a permitted use that needs to alter a building's structural elements or partially or completely demolish this building shall only be considered by way of a text amendment to the zoning bylaw. And G, that Part 6 of the zoning bylaw Z-14-44, Section 23 to Section 59, as it relates to general provisions, applies mutatis mutandis. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Madam Deputy Mayor. We accept the third reading of the third reading of bylaw Z-44-44-58Z, 57Z by its title and its entirety. Moved, seconded by Councillor Germain Galland. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. All those against? Still 8-3. Thank you.
Donc, pour le prochain point, la troisième lecture de...
Excuse-moi, Monsieur le Maire, j'ai juste demandé une question à Phil. Normalement, quand
So I just asked a question of Phil. Usually, when we do, there's a section with the conditions. It takes a specific resolution to adopt the conditions to the bylaw. We didn't put it within the package. We put it within the bylaw, but didn't put it as its own resolution. So I think that if you give Sylvain a little time, we can put the resolution, and we would need somebody to read the resolution for the conditions for the rezoning.
Juste que les conditions soient...
Just that
that those conditions be included, like it should be part of the resolution.
Est-ce qu'on peut...
If you would like to, David, that's something we could do also. I will do it.
C'est tout le long texte que tu viens de lire.
It's a long text you just read, really.
Passe-moi là, moi je vais lire, puis il y a quelqu'un qui va
I will read it and someone will remove and adopt it.
Faut que ce soit un conseil qui le lit.
It has to be read by council. Move and seconded with the following conditions. It's the conditions like attached to the bylaw. It has to be adopted by the council in a separate resolution. We could. I didn't think it was a requirement. I know we can do it, but I think we change. But notwithstanding, Mr. Councillor Després, it resolved that following conditions apply to the bylaw Z-14-44 57Z. Notwithstanding all other provision to the contrary, the lands, buildings, and structures on the above mentioned property are subject to the following terms and conditions. That the properties to be rezoned are outlined in the Schedule A57 of this bylaw, that the permitted main uses of lands, building, or structure as defined in zoning bylaw Z-14-44 shall be limited to a group home, a single unit dwelling, a restaurant, hotel or motel, a cultural center and or entertainment facility, a museum or amusement place, and a bed and breakfast. And that C, a bed and breakfast, a general commercial. Yeah, he said you got to, no, you're good. that one or several building structures or accessory uses related to the main use of the land, building, or structure shall be permitted. That's subject to section 14.2, 14.4, 14.6, and 14.7 of the zoning bylaw Z-14-44 related to general provision of general commercial applied mutatis mutandis. The height of a main building or structure shall not exceed 11 meters. That's subject to section 53 of the zoning bylaw Z-14-44 related to heritage site. The main building, Webster House, 114 Riverside Drive, is considered a historical site and subject to specific provision. Notwithstanding the provision of this bylaw, any application for a construction and/or development permit for permitted use that needs to alter a building structural elements or partially or completely demolish this building shall only be considered by way of a text amendment to the zoning bylaw, and that part 6 of the it's 6 in Roman numbers of the zoning bylaw Z-14-44, section 23 to section 59, as it relates to general provisions apply mutatis mutandis. I shall move.
Alors, on fait la proposition.
I shall move.
Conseiller Després, on fait la proposition.
Councillor Després is moving, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau.
Sur les conditions.
On the conditions,
Tous en faveur, on dira oui.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Contre, non.
Against, nay. It's
Adopté.
carried.
Donc, on passe à la...
We go to part 2 of this one. Third reading, bylaw P-14-36-10P, this to modify like the municipal plan.
On a besoin de quelqu'un pour faire
I
le-
would need someone to read. Councillor Jean-Maine Galland.
Donc, ceci, c'est pour la partie du...
So this is the part like for the municipal plan for general commercial to residential. Third reading, bylaw number P-14-36-10P. That the bylaw number P-14-36-10P, a bylaw amending the Shediac municipal plan number P-14-36 be read a third time by its title and its in entirety. I shall move, Mr. Mayor.
Germaine Galland.
Moved by Councillor Jean-Maine Galland,
Conseiller Roland Cormier.
seconded by
Question.
Councillor Roland Cormier.
Sinon, tous en faveur, on dira
If
oui.
not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Non.
Against, nay.
Adopté.
Motion carried. Mr. Clerk.
Arrêté numéro P-14.
Bylaw dash 36D, a bylaw modifying the municipal plan of Shediac number P-14-30. Under the powers on the planning and the municipal council of Shediac, the municipal plan for the town of Shediac dash P-360 on April 28th and submitted like to the registering office of Westmoreland office under number 33-1679-6005 on May 23, like the map entitled like land use found that in Appendix A of municipal and modify as shown on the map dated of October 15, 2024, attached and at the Appendix 10 of the bylaw modifying the designation with the PID 70, 70, 5157, 70139274, and 00973784 to residential R1 as described in the Appendix 10, included that we accept like the third reading of P-14-36-10P by its title and in its entirety. Moved by Councillor Jean-Maine Galland, seconded by Councillor Roland Cormier.
Tous en faveur, on dira oui.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against, nay. It's been carried.
Merci.
Thank you.
J'aimerais les conditions pour l'arrêté de zonage.
Now the condition for the bylaw.
Donc,
So, next, third reading for the bylaw number Z50, the bylaw for general commercial to residential. You would like to read it? Like the third reading bylaw Z-44-48, the bylaw entitled bylaw Z-1444, a bylaw amending the town Shediac zoning bylaw be read a third time by its title and in entirety. Moved by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Roland Cormier. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay? It's been carried.
Arrêté numéro Z,
the bylaw, the zoning Z-44-44,
des pouvoirs que lui confère la loi sur l'urbanisme.
Le
conseil municipal de Shediac,
the municipal council, the zone for mentioned on April 28, 2014, and submitted to their register office at 33-75-5973 on May 2024, modified as a appendix entitled like zoning map for the town of Shediac, as mentioned in the was modified by the map as an appendix A58. That to accept the third reading of bylaw, that's 34C, by its title and in its entirety. Moved by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Roland Cormier. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay? It's been carried. Condition for this one? No. So yeah, you chose the easier one. 14.4, like a permanent closing of Maple Lane. He said he was. Just to give you a little bit of a background, I can give you like a background. Remember, in 2022, we already proceed like with the pop-up and close like for Maple Lane. Part of it. It was in the project like for the building on Saint-Anne Street. But this time we were approached and we're working with some developers downtown for the daycare, and it's called Garderie Oli, the Oli daycare. So they purchased many purchasers. So Maple Lane, which is not necessarily, it's a public street, but not, it's narrower than a normal street. It's part of this new complex that they're trying to develop. I think you read the two letters that were put in your package. So what we're looking to do, it's really like to change the street, remove like the status of public street, to make it like simply like an alley or a lane for the emergency vehicles, just to ensure like a presence for the firefighters. So the street would be completely closed to traffic, and no zone like for parking, and it would also become like a no building zone, impossible to build anything whatsoever in this zone after. So the request was made by discussing with the developers, so that this transfer is done. Even we can transfer like the line we need like to change the street and remove it and remove the public street status. That's what we are proposing this evening. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So these are the first two readings. There will be a third reading at the next meeting to finalize this. I need someone like to read it. Mrs. Janice Cormier. Permanent closure of Maple Lane. That the bylaw entitled bylaw number 70, a bylaw relating to permanently stop up and close a portion of Maple Lane, be read a first time by its title. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Patricia Bourgeois. Questions on the motion? Councillor Patricia. So they want to close it only to, it will only be like a lane for emergency. So they will not use it. This portion of land, but part of this land, it will be used like a if I remember, like a part, like a playground, children, the part of this section, but mainly like in the plans that were provided, if you look really good, it's mainly like a lane that will allow like the lane would be there, but simply like to allow the emergency vehicles to get in. No like vehicle would go through that could park there or anything like that. If I understood well, like in one of those letters, like we were plowing the street before, but if it's an emergency lane, don't we have to, someone like is responsible to remove the snow? So in fact, yes, if the street becomes the possession of the owners, we transfer the street, so they would be responsible like to remove for snow removal. Yes, it was mentioned like in the letter for the developers or the entrepreneurs, but that's still a problematic for the town because this lane is not even paved and it's narrow. It's not always easy like to snow plow and maintain. It would be completely closed and it would be the responsibility of the owner. They will do it. If ever like emergency vehicles need to go, I think it's important. Like
Conseiller Roland Cormier.
Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Clarification. I might have an opinion after. Do I understand like now it's the town of Shediac who owns like a Maple Lane, right? So we're transferring it like to the daycare? In a sense, yes, the future project is to transfer it like to this daycare, yes. Is there a cost attached to this? Will the owner like, so is it up to is it usual for the town like we give land we own for free? Is it like the norm? Nobody thought it was for free or anything else. We simply said like the street will be closed and then the street would be transferred. I understand. Like remove like the designation of street. Like, did I understand properly that the part of the street we would be we are like remove like the official designation, so part of the street the daycare will use? Yes, in a sense, too many opinions. There would be many uses. I do not have enough details like on this project to vote. I'm not saying it's a good or bad idea, but I don't think I have enough. I do not have enough details. So we're being told it's a street. We want to designate it in principle. I have no problem with that, but we will allow them like to use part of our property. Maybe I can give some clarification because I lived on the Maple Lane like many years ago. The land where the daycare is located on the plan, like it's the land at your the right hand side. You see the street, so the owner owns not only the daycare but owns like the little parcel of land where there's a yellow house. It's a small yellow house. They also own like the other parcel of land at the left side, and also like the land behind, like where the 21 Maple Lane is located, where I lived for many years. So the same owner gathered many of those pieces of land, except like the long rectangle where the building of for a 60-unit building. Essentially, like he's just amalgamating like the lanes, and it was still used. It's a dirt road. There's no lawn on it. It's just to combine all its activities. You did not help me. No, that's okay. If I understand well. by the redesignating, just make it like a lot of land. Someone is committed like for emergency, like to plow it in case we might need it, like for an emergency. But in exchange, we allowed us to use like a lane like from owned by the municipality without going to the second step. Maybe to sell it or not sell it. Do I understand well? In a sense, yes. So the transaction cannot be done or transfer cannot be done as long as the street is a public street. So could we, that would allow the eventual sale, but it will be another vote. So what's kind of bothering me is to allow them to use like some land belonging to the town of Shediac. Councillor Cormier, just to tell you, they will not be able to use the town of for the town of Shediac as long as Shediac did not transfer the land. I'm okay with this. Thanks for the clarification. We know it's not something that's usually comes to the council. It's not a usual request. Councillor Joël Després, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would it possible that if we adopted to ask some questions? That the hearing, public hearing. So this part is it's a stop up and close, just to remove the designation public street. But I'm really for this daycare. It's a great project. I have a concern though on how like we would proceed like when the child coming in with this evening. I think that's where it would be addressed, but what you're saying, it will not be used for that. It will be used like for emergencies only, if I understand properly. So will we have problem later where the citizen they will make complaints because they have cars like parking inside of the road. So that's a question I have. It's not really like the right place to discuss this. It's certainly something a question we can ask to the owner, and he can provide us with an answer. And for this, well, regardless where it's located, like it has to meet also the standards of the province of New Brunswick to ensure like the safety of security of youth. And would like to add, we do not have all the detail of. We're not at the plan yet, but the goal would be eventually like to give or transfer the land. It might be appropriate like to ask the possible developer to submit a plan. I'm going to be honest, like I support the daycare, the project you're doing, but as councillor said, you come with this evening, and I don't think we got a lot of details with the plans, how they will operate, or what I said, and we have to make a decision. It's not set in stone, but so what we're doing, these are the first two readings to remove the designation from a public street. So the third reading will be done at the next meeting. Maybe we could ask the owner to do a presentation. Yes, of course, the developer asked us like to bring this on the agenda, and might have some questions we could not answer, but the individual still wanted like to bring it forward. And I think if we can help maybe like clarify those questions in the future, the council would appreciate. So there is no public hearing for that one, right? It's not a rezoning. Thanks for the information. So, Mr. Clerk, did we vote already? Not yet. Then he needs a vote. We were the question, so to adopt the first reading, by all in favor saying aye. Against nay. It's been carried. Councillor Janice, that we accept the first reading of the bylaw 70 by its title. We did not read it yet. Yes. Mr. Clerk, just to make sure, Mr. Mayor, who Councillor Janice Cormier and Councillor Patricia. Yes, sorry. There's too many votes. So bylaw number 7, the bylaw relating to permanently stop up and close a portion of Maple Lane in Shediac. Councillor Janice, that we adopt the first reading of bylaw 70 by its title. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Patricia Bouk-Chevary. Janice Patricia. It's not even close. Questions? Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the citizen of this area will be consulted or informed like that we intend to close up the street. Is it like the norm? It's not part of the process, no. If they're not listening this evening, they will not know. As I said, this is a street essentially like it's a one-way street, like only one. I do not disagree. I voted for, and I will continue to vote for it. It's not. It's just maybe to sometimes the transparency is important, like for municipal council. I'm not saying we do not want to be transparent. I'm just trying to look where there would be some mechanism. I would strongly suggest to the clerk, we have a Facebook page. Maybe we could mention that we are doing this. Probably we'll be voting for the second reading, and there's still a chance if someone in the neighborhood who have concern that it's just when they say we still have something to rely on. At least we inform you. I know it's not like a rezoning where we send official letters to all the people within a certain number of meters from. Mr. Mayor, I would suggest this to the administrator, at least to do this. Just trying to be more transparent as much as possible. I don't think no one here who do not want to be transparent. Very good point there. So in the neighborhood surroundings, just to confirm, the majority of the properties, they were purchased by the owner. So on Maple Lane as such, there's no other individuals who own this land except the developer or the entrepreneur. Even on the corner of Saint-Anne Street and Maple Lane, it's the same. At this level, it's really it would be difficult to notify people, but Councillor Cormier, your point, I think it's a very good idea in a sense. Can always find a mechanism where we can inform the population. So, on this note, all in favor saying aye. Against nay? It's been carried. Councillor Janice Cormier. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Yes, we voted for the second reading. He said he's going too fast. Can I go, Mr. Mayor? That the bylaw entitled 7, a bylaw relating to permanently stop up and close a portion Maple Lane be read a second time by its title and its entirety. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Patricia Bouk-Chevary. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, saying aye. Against nay? Carried. Mr. Clerk. I will just, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw number 70, a bylaw relating to permanently stop up and close a portion of Maple Lane in Shediac. The town of Shediac makes the following. Whereas 10(1)P of the Local Governance Act authorizes a municipal council to permanently close road, trees, and highways or portion thereof. And whereas it seems in the public interest that a portion of Maple Lane totaling 800 212 square meters and show Schedule in parcel 25B, 25C, and parcel 25D be permanently closed. And whereas this bylaw is required to transfer a portion of Maple Lane to allow the development of a right-of-way for an emergency access for a daycare project on the adjacent line, that this section might be considered as a no-build zone. Therefore, be it resolved that the portion of Maple Lane total 800 square meters and shown in Schedule A as parcel 25B, 25C, and parcel 25D is permanent closed. That we adopt the second reading of bylaw 70 by title and its entirety. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Patricio Chevalier. If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Number 15, motions and resolutions. We have 15. It's the reserve fund, like general. So, Mr. CEO, would you like to give us some background? Yes, I can certainly share some background. I'm the finance director, but essentially it's a normal procedure, like at the end of a year, like to transfer the surplus to reserve fund, and it allowed the municipality to have access to to get access to the money immediately. And if we did not do this transfer, it would become a surplus that could be used and declared in 2 years from now, in 2 years from today. So it's always a good current practice to maximize the use of those funds for the municipalities' needs. So the municipalities can have 2 reserve funds, the utilities or like water and sewer, and to have, and they can have 2 funds, and they can have entitled to a reserve also for operating, and also a reserve for a capital reserve. And as for operation purposes, we can maximize up to 5% for the budget for the operating fund in general, and there's no limit for the immobilization fund. So these amount that capital is to maximize the amount accessible to the capital reserve fund, and to put the balance in the operating fund. So the capital reserve fund, sorry. It's been a long day and we're getting close to the holidays. So I don't know if the finance director would like to present the amount that we are recommending for the different reserve funds. And Mrs. Director? So the amounts that are presenting in the motions, so it was following an exercise, in-depth exercise to look at all the expenses that were registered and what we are forecasting until the end of the year by December. And there's some work that was done, and for the general operating fund, we are forecasting a surplus of it's 800,000 to maximize our fund, reserve fund. For the general operating fund, we wanted to maximize it with 300,000 and 500,000 to the capital reserve fund. The other one is the water and sewer. So this one, so we have a surplus that we should generate, and these emotions are there, and they are presenting it. So when I say the exercise was done rigorously, so we not wake up with a real deficit after year.
So, to start the debate, I would need somebody to read the motion. Councillor Després, 15.1 transfer General Capital Reserve Fund. Be it resolved that $500,000 be transferred to the Capital Reserve Fund, including $200,000 for economic development. These funds will come from the General Operating Fund. Be it also resolved that $300,000 be transferred to the Operating Reserve Fund. These funds will come from the General Operating Fund. I so moved. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. Any questions? Councillor Paul Boudreau. A few questions. What is the amount in the reserve right now? Inaudible. I don't have those figures with me. I could come back with you with that. There's no hurry. The other one, it's attributable to economic development. As always, we always put in an amount for $200,000 for economic development, and we reserve those amounts for economic development activities. But in terms of economic development, the reserve is how big? What's the amount there? Danny, Councillor Boudreau, good question. Couldn't give you the figure, the exact figure. I think it's over $1 million, but you have to take into consideration that it's from the capital fund. There's only one bank account. And in that bank account, we have set aside amounts for economic development. I think Carol could give you those numbers. I know that we haven't met, that the Economic Development Committee hasn't met for a long time. Will we have a plan in terms of what we're doing that reserve? Councillor Boudreau, your question is as favorable as it is. It's not really as part of the motion. The motion is talk about putting an amount into reserve. It's not in terms of what we're doing with the reserve. But my decision for my vote could be based on what we do with the money. I'm just saying that you're going beyond. If they're asking for money, I want to know what they're going to do with it. But what we do with it, that is part of another motion in the council, not this motion. Well, no problem. Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Ronald Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. The question, Your Worship, would be, we're asking to transfer $300,000, seeing as we have a surplus. My question, Your Worship, is in terms of the $800,000, as the council is aware, there are services that are paid in conjunction with all of the citizens of the town of Shediac, and some are only paid by taxpayers who were in the old limits of Shediac. My question is, out of that $800,000, how many dollars would be allocated? Are we doing math? Are we doing some mathematical gymnastics here? I see what you mean in terms of shared services. If we put that there and you say it's for everyone, it might be fine, but it might not be fine. We might be getting some money from citizens from the old limits of the town of Shediac, and then give it to all of the citizens. That wouldn't be fine, or vice versa. That's why I want to know where we're putting it. I asked the question last year, and I'll ask it again this year. Chances are I'll ask it next year again. We'll take note of it for next year. Can I get an answer? I don't know the answer. Mr. CAO? I always say, Mr. Mayor, you always tell me I have to ask you the question. Mr. CAO, I can't answer your question specifically, but in terms of exact numbers. But I'll use an example. Like in Pointe-du-Chêne, there's a community center. We allocate an annual amount. Pardon me, I don't have the figure in my mind, 60,000 a year. I think it's 80,000. Well, at any rate, let's say 80. We'll use his worship's number. Let's say at the end of the fiscal year, they'd only have used 75 out of those 80,000. There would be a surplus of $5,000 that would have been solely derived by the taxpayers of a local service district. That requires some internal gymnastics to make sure that next year, maybe it's only 75 that we would get to fill in the full 80. There's a bit internal surplus that is transferred. I know it sounds complicated, but internally, if the taxpayers of one tax unit, that money will be followed internally to stay within those taxpayers. It requires a bit of accounting gymnastics, but I don't have the exact number right now. Your worship, I would presume that the finance director would have access to those numbers. Maybe she doesn't have them right now. I would presume that she does have access to those numbers. Is that something that you're able to come provide to the council? Maybe not tonight, at a future date, perhaps? Do you have a chart that would explain it? And given that you're looking for those of this year, maybe we could look for those of last year. Thank you. And your worship? There's vacation time is coming. There's no hurry. But I would ask for that in the first meeting of January. Just an FYI. What I could prepare is I could prepare a chart, a table that says what amounts we have in reserve, and see what you have an idea what I'm looking for. Yes. Otherwise I have an idea. Thank you, your worship. You're welcome. Although we have a motion. It's on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. 15.2, transfer to the Service or Utility Capital Reserve Fund for Water. Jean-Claude Bertin will read it. Be it resolved that $1 million be $1 million be transferred to the Capital Utility Reserve Fund. These funds will come from the Utility Operating Fund. I so move. Moved by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Any questions? Councillor Patricia Brooke-Chevrolet. Thank you, your worship. 1 million. It's a lot of money. Is it because we underestimated revenue? Are there things that we didn't do that we had the intention of doing that were budgeted? Is something? What explains this amount? It's the budget. It's the water budget. It's not for the whole town. When we put together the 2024 budgets, we put in some capital amounts project within the water, and they should not have been there. That's all it is. They should have been put into the capital fund for water, not for the operating fund for money, for water. So, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. 15.3, Municipal Council Meeting Schedule. This is always based on our current scheduling, based on compared to what the bylaw is in the procedural bylaw, which you haven't changed yet, but we will do it at some point in 2025, no doubt. Councillor Patricia Brooke-Chevrolet, shall you read it? Sylvain answered my question. Go ahead. Municipal Council meeting schedule. Whereas the procedural bylaw of Municipal Council of the Town of Shediac, number 23-03, is to be used to establish the conduct of council meetings, whereas the bylaws of the procedural bylaw of the Council of the Town of Shediac, number 23-03, may be suspended by a unanimous vote of the members of council present, Therefore, be it resolved that the plenary meetings of January 9th, February 3rd, March 3rd, April 7th, May 5th, and June 7th be cancelled. Be it also resolved that the regular meeting schedule be amended to include meetings on January 20th, February 3rd and 18th, March 3rd and 17th, April 7th and 22nd, May 5th and 20th, June 2nd and 16th, July 7th and August 18th. These meetings will start at 6 p.m. rather than 7 p.m. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Patricia Brooke-Chevalier, seconded by Councillor Jean-Marie Galland. Any questions? Councillor Paul Boudreau. A comment. I support this motion for these meetings. If the citizens who follows our meetings regularly, I mentioned this to Sylvain. Is it possible at the end of our meetings to announce when the next meeting will be happening? I spoke to that with Sylvain. I found it a great idea. I'm not sure if that can be added to the agenda. Just something to think about. That's all. Thank you, Councillor Paul Boudreau. Madam Deputy Mayor, thank you, Your Worship. The invitation is for Mr. Clerk. Will you send us all of the cancellations? So and then we have to accept them, and then you'll know we've accepted them. Thank you. Just to make sure that we have it in our calendars. Question, Councillor Joël Després. Regarding these meetings, Your Worship, when we will have adopted the changes to the procedural bylaw, we refused to do this the last time. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. No, it's okay. So with that, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried unanimously. So there's nothing, no appointments to committees. Now we simply need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Jean-Marie Galland. Our next meeting will be a special meeting. Monday, January 13th. It's a special meeting. Have a great evening and happy holidays and Merry Christmas.